Okay, so you wanted to deep dive into this Prophet Lovy Elias and his 2020 election prophecy.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, this is not your typical political analysis.
No.
We're talking visions. We've got a bear, an eagle, stolen crowns,
Right.
wild stuff. So we're going to unpack all of it,
Yeah.
starting with this sermon he gave right before the election in 2020.
So what's really interesting here is we're dealing with a prophecy, not just some commentary you see on the news.
Right.
Elias is using these really vivid images and powerful symbolism. It's not just about what he's saying, but like the way he's saying it.
The way he paints these pictures.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
And he starts right off the bat with these two powerful animals, a bear and an eagle. And, I mean, those choices, those are deliberate, right? Especially thinking about American politics.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about it. You have the bear, often seen as strong, but also kind of lumbering.
Yeah.
So politically, you might connect that to maybe more left-leaning ideologies, maybe even a bit slow to change. And then you have the eagle.
Right.
This symbol of American freedom and power, often associated with, more right-leaning, patriotic kind of perspective.
So right away, he's setting up this symbolic clash between these two very different forces.
Right.
Okay, so then he gets even more specific.
Okay.
He describes this bear struggling to wear a crown. What's going on with that?
Well, you have to think about that in the context of governing.
Yeah.
So imagine a leader, right? And they have this crown that doesn't quite fit.
Okay.
It suggests that they're going to have some real challenges in leading.
Yeah.
Maybe even questions about whether they're legitimate. Can they unite a divided nation? Like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
It just doesn't work.
It just doesn't work, yeah.
And then he talks about all these spirits surrounding the bear, trying to keep that crown in place.
Oh, that's interesting.
What do you think he's getting at with that?
I think it really points to this idea of a diverse, maybe even fragile coalition of supporters, you know? Think about all the different groups and interests that often align with one side of the political spectrum.
Right.
Managing all these different voices and keeping them all united.
Yeah.
Huge challenge.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
It's not just about winning, it's about what happens after.
Exactly.
And then, okay, just when you think you're starting to understand this whole bear situation, he throws in 5 angels supporting a wounded eagle.
5 angels.
5 angels. Why 5? And why are they helping the eagle?
Well, I mean, the number 5 itself, it can be interpreted in different ways.
Right.
But here, I think it might represent this smaller, but maybe more unified group of supporters for the eagle.
Okay.
And it's interesting that he describes the eagle as wounded.
Yeah.
So this could symbolize the challenges, the setbacks faced by people who hold more right-leaning views.
And it gets even wilder.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
He says that one angel could take out all those spirits that are supporting the bear.
Wow.
That's some serious power. And then he throws in this line, the people are rising against establishments that are demonic.
Yeah, things are heating up.
It feels very intense.
For sure. And remember, this is 2020.
Right.
This is a time when things are already incredibly tense politically.
Yeah.
There was a lot of distrust in traditional institutions. So Elias is really tapping into this anxiety that was already there.
Yeah.
But he's giving it this spiritual dimension.
Yeah.
And it's a powerful way to connect with people who are feeling disillusioned.
Absolutely, things are.
Yeah. And he doesn't shy away from the negative stuff.
Yeah.
He warns about a divided nation,
Right.
the potential for chaos, especially around March. He even says, I saw the bear dividing God's country.
Now, this is where the prophecy gets really interesting because he's not just describing symbols anymore.
Yeah.
He's making these specific predictions.
And looking back now, it's hard not to see some parallels between his vision and what actually happened after the election.
We had the January 6th Capitol riot.
Right.
Which was definitely divisive.
For sure.
And things have only gotten worse since then, politically speaking.
Yeah, the polarization and the social unrest we've seen across the country.
Exactly.
So did Elias literally predict these specific events? Or was he tapping into this broader sense of unrest?
Right.
I mean, that's open to interpretation.
Yeah.
But the timing of the prophecy, I mean, he said this before any of this happened.
Right.
You can't deny that's significant.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So he's painting this picture of division, of potential chaos.
Right.
But then he offers some pretty practical advice, especially for a religious leader.
Okay.
He tells people to vote based on their values, not their emotions,
Right.
and to consider the lesser of two evils.
That's fascinating because I think it highlights this tension that a lot of people of faith feel when they're engaging with politics. Ideally, you want your choices to perfectly align with your values.
Right.
But in the real world,
Yeah.
it's usually more complicated than that.
Right.
Sometimes you have to make hard choices.
Yeah.
Choices that don't feel ideal,
Yeah.
but you think will lead to the best outcome. And that's where this whole idea of the lesser of two evils comes in. This idea that you have to choose between two options that are both flawed, and you gotta weigh the potential consequences.
It's about strategy.
Yeah.
Not about finding the perfect candidate.
Right.
It's about making the most strategic decision.
Exactly.
Even if it feels a little
messy.
Messy, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you got to hold your nose and vote.
Yeah, and it's especially relevant in a two-party system like we have here,
right,
where the choices are often presented
binary.
Very binary, yeah.
Yeah.
It forces you to really think about what are your priorities?
Yeah.
What compromises are you willing to make?
Yeah, it's putting faith into action.
Yeah.
It's not just about praying for a better world.
Right.
It's about making these tough choices.
Yeah, making those choices in the political arena.
Yeah, it's a tough one for religious leaders to navigate.
For sure.
On one hand, they want to encourage their followers to be involved.
Right.
But on the other hand,
they don't want to alienate anyone by seeming like they're taking sides.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Elias seems to walk that line pretty carefully.
I think so.
He doesn't endorse anyone specifically,
right,
but he urges people to pray, to really consider their values, to understand how complex politics really is.
He's saying, hey, faith is important, but politics is still politics.
Right.
It's not always going to be neat and tidy.
Not always going to be easy.
Nope.
And that was especially true in 2020.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, think about it. We were dealing with a pandemic.
Yeah.
Economic uncertainty. These huge social and political divides.
It was like a powder keg.
It really was.
Just waiting to explode.
And in times like that, I think these prophecies, they can be really appealing to people.
Oh, for sure.
They offer the sense of order.
Right.
Sense of meaning.
Yeah, when the world feels like it's spinning out of control.
Like people are looking for something, anything.
Yes. Anything to make sense of the chaos.
To make sense of it all.
And prophecies, I mean, with all the imagery.
Yeah.
The symbolic language.
It goes beyond just rational analysis.
Yeah, it really taps into our emotions, our fears, our hopes.
So what was the response to his prophecy back then?
I mean, it's hard to measure the exact impact of any prophecy, but we know Elias has a pretty big following. His sermons are all over online, especially in certain religious communities.
So it's safe to say a lot of people heard it.
Oh, yeah.
It makes you think about the role of faith in politics.
Yeah.
Especially during these chaotic times.
It's such a complex issue.
It is.
For some people, faith provides comfort. Guidance during uncertainty. It helps them make sense of the world.
And for some people, it motivates them to take action.
Oh, yeah.
To fight for their beliefs.
Absolutely.
And of course, there are people who think religion and politics
should be separate.
Completely separate, yeah.
Completely separate.
It's a spectrum.
For sure.
And Elias seems to be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Encouraging people to get involved, to vote. But not telling them who to vote for.
Not endorsing any specific candidate.
Or party.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance for someone in his position.
And remember, he even mentions specific events he claims to have seen.
Okay.
Like the country dividing.
Right.
And potential chaos. Especially around March.
Around March.
Looking back, did any of that actually happen?
Well, we already talked about January 6th.
Right.
The Capitol riot.
Definitely fits the description.
Definitely division and chaos. And even though March didn't have, like, one big event, there was still a lot of turmoil.
Yeah, politically and socially.
A lot of unrest in those first few months of 2021.
Yeah.
So can we say for sure that Elias predicted those specific events? Not really.
But the parallels are there.
The parallels are definitely there.
Yeah.
Hard to ignore.
So even if we don't take the prophecy literally, it still shows us.
It gives us a snapshot of all the anxiety and fear
that was going around at the time.
That was swirling around,
It reminds us that those anxieties,
they don't just go away.
They don't just disappear.
They stick around, they evolve, they show up in different ways.
Exactly.
And that's why it's so important to analyze prophecies within their historical context,
Yeah.
they can tell us so much about the social and political climate
Of the time.
of that specific time.
Even if we don't know for sure if they're predicting the future.
Right.
Yeah, it's like this prophecy is a time capsule in a way, capturing this very specific moment
Yeah.
in American history.
Right.
But it also makes you think about how we interpret these prophecies, especially when they're talking about politics.
That's the thing.
You know?
Yeah.
So how do we approach something like this? Do we take it with a grain of salt? Or is there something deeper going on here?
I think it's about finding a balance between being skeptical and open-minded.
Right.
We can look at the symbols, the historical context, explore different ways of interpreting it without necessarily saying, oh, every little detail is going to literally happen.
Right. It's about thinking critically.
Yeah.
Not just accepting it at face value.
Exactly. And I think that's so important today. I mean, especially now in 2024.
Right.
We are just bombarded with information.
From all sides.
All sides. You got to figure out what's credible, what's biased, what's just trying to, you know, mess with your emotions.
Yeah. It's like a minefield out there.
It really is.
It's exhausting.
It is. It is. And that's why that advice from Elias.
About voting with your values.
Yes. Voting based on values, not just your gut reaction.
Right. Not just emotions.
It's so important. It's like a reminder to stay grounded.
Yeah.
Even when everything feels crazy.
In your principles.
In your principles.
Making decisions based on what you truly believe.
Yes.
Not just reacting to whatever the latest headline is.
Or whatever's trending.
Or social media, yeah.
It's a powerful message.
It is.
And it goes beyond just voting. It's about, you know, living your life that way.
With intention.
Yeah, with intention, with clarity.
So we've done this whole deep dive into Prophet Lovy Elias's prophecy.
Yeah.
What's the big takeaway for you? What do you hope people are thinking about after listening to all this?
I think the big thing is critical thinking. We live in a world where it's so easy to get caught up in all the sensationalism, the fear. We need to be able to analyze information.
Yeah.
Question what we hear, consider different points of view.
Be informed.
Be informed, be engaged citizens.
Yeah.
But also be careful about what information we're taking in.
Be discerning. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I hope people take away from this. Don't just passively listen.
Right.
Engage with it, you know?
Yeah.
Ask questions. Explore different ideas.
Think for yourself.
Think for yourself. Come to your own conclusions.
Because that's what makes you a truly informed person.
Yeah, absolutely. An empowered individual.
And who knows, maybe you'll even learn something new.
Oh, for sure.
About yourself.
Yeah.
About the world.
About the world, yeah.
So keep exploring, keep questioning.
Keep diving deep.
And we'll see you next time